I sighed a little inside when my boss told me I needed to take one more order out before I was allowed to go home. My shift ended at 9 p.m., which was closing time, and it just so happened I was the only delivery driver still on call Halloween night. I checked the time, and it was 8:54 p.m. Great, I muttered to myself. 6 minutes to spare and some idiot decided now would be a good time to order a pizza. I wanted to tell my boss that I wanted to go home and sit out back by the bonfire with my family and eat chili, which was a tradition we did every Halloween. There was something about the brisk fall air that just felt beautifully on my skin that made me look forward to Halloween night. Next to Christmas Eve, it was my favorite night of the year. Anyways, I swallowed my pride and I grabbed the pizza off the shelf and hurried out the door. As I was heading out the door, my boss threw me the keys and said, "Lock up for me, will ya? I still have about an hour to take my kid out trick-or-treating. You can only do it once a year, you know. We all have things we want to do tonight, you know." I whispered to myself angrily and opened the door to head to my car. I saw tons of kids walking to the neighborhood behind my place of work, dressed up as ghosts and skeletons, screaming excitedly to get some candy that will probably last them a couple of days. Realizing those days were behind me, I threw the pizza in the passenger door and read the address on the box. 114 Smithsville Road. Where the heck was that? I never heard of the road before, I told myself. I had been delivering pizza for 3 years in this town, and I've lived here all my life before that. My town is not big, and I know every road, path, and back road and shortcut in the entire town. I have never heard of this road before, so I put it in my GPS. 12 minutes away. Awesome, I sarcastically told myself. I knew my family will wait for me to light the fire, which did calm me down, and I started on down Main Street to get to the house. At least the 12-minute drive can give me some time to record some vocal lines from my book into my cassette, I reassured myself while I was driving. What a time to be alive. A book written by Ryan Jameson. On a night that I should be at home for, instead of driving food to people who are too lazy to come pick it up themselves. I smacked the center console on my car and clicked off the cassette as I got angrier, realizing I wasn't going to get anywhere on my book tonight. I just cruised the rest of the way until I got close to the house. I hadn't even realized where I had been driving, because I had zoned out following the GPS and found myself in a very unfamiliar area. I had no idea where I was, as the GPS read, 1 minute away, destination is on your left. I tucked the cassette in my jacket pocket, and I turned my high beams on in my car to better navigate through the darkness, and eventually rolled up on what appeared to be a endlessly tall mansion. What the? Where am I? I stuttered to myself. I parked the car, grabbed my flashlights and the pizza, and started walking up the long driveway. There were fog lights on the front lawn of the house, illuminating the front of it, and I realized something. The house didn't only look endless from the car. It didn't look endless because it was endlessly tall. The mansion cut into the sky like a skyscraper, impossibly tall. Completely astonished by what I was looking at, I started to feel unsettled and uncomfortable. I couldn't explain why I felt this way in the moment, but I got a sudden urge to turn and look behind me. As I shot my head around, I realized how far away from my car I actually was. I was so far, I couldn't even see the end of the driveway or my car. "What?" I said. I hadn't been walking for that long. I left my headlights on so I could see, and even shining my flashlight doesn't show where I was parked. I was completely panicked at this, so I started jogging up to the front door of the house, and finally I found myself standing at the front door, looking directly up in the mansion that shot into the heavens above. I could not believe what I was seeing, and frankly, I just wanted to get out of there. I knocked on the door and I left the pizza on the ground, and just made a run for my car. The order was paid for, and I didn't even really care if they wanted to give me a tip. All I wanted was to get out. As I was running down the driveway, I realized I wasn't actually getting any closer to the end of the driveway. This, of course, caused me to panic and make me run faster and faster. I couldn't even think about what was happening because it seemed so surreal. I was in a full-on sprint at this point, starting to feel an awful feeling in the pit of my stomach. Right before I was about to start running, I took one last step. Except this last step that I took, my foot never hit the ground. Next thing I know, I am falling down deeper and deeper into what seemed to be a hole in the ground. I was screaming and crying out in horror because my mind was so dumbfounded as to what was happening. After what seemed to be 10 minutes, I just stopped falling. I didn't feel myself hit the ground, or I didn't fall into a pit of water. But I found myself standing on a light red surface. Panicked, my eyes started to shoot around and dart from one area to the next. It didn't take me long to realize I was in line. I was standing in line, surrounded by people screaming out for mercy, praying to God and laying on the ground crying. I had never felt this horror in my entire life. The way I felt in this moment was a feeling I didn't even know I was capable for a human being. It was indescribable, and the worst that I have or will ever feel. As I was trying to figure out what was going on, I heard a loud, booming voice call out from above. "Ryan, you have been ungrateful for your entire life, and have only thought about yourself. You do not deserve to see the light of day, and you will live your remaining days here." What is going on? Where am I? Who the heck was just talking? I started to hyperventilate. As I fell to the ground, I looked around to the thousands of people in front of me in line, staring back at me, laughing in unison. I started to cry right on the ground. I had no idea what was happening, and I didn't have a clue on what to do. "Am I in hell?" I screamed out in the air. The moment I yelled this, the laughing stopped at once. I slowly stood up after this happened and yelled out again. "Well, do you want me to be quiet? Am I here, or am I dreaming? I want to answer." In the middle of my sentence, I was what felt like snatched up off the ground and thrown into the air. I couldn't find the effort or air to let out a scream. Instead, I just closed my eyes and accepted that this was the end. As I started falling down again to my newly accepted fate, I stopped falling again. This time I found myself in front of a tall metal gate. All I could hear were horrible screams that sounded like they were coming from all directions. Behind me was a room about the size of a bathtub. It didn't take me long to realize that I wasn't in front of a gate. I was behind the gate, locked in. I then heard that same booming voice call out from above to me. Ryan, you will not raise your voice or ask any more questions. You do not have to understand where you are. Just know that you are never ever getting out. The voice started cackling a horrible laugh which faded out over time. I fell to my knees and cried yet again. I was exhausted and confused, and at this point, I wanted to die. After crying out every last ounce of water in my body, I heard a quiet but demanding voice call out my name. Ryan, I'm over here. I looked up and started frantically looking around the room. I'm up here, Ryan. Put your hands up in the air and I'll pull you out. Not knowing what was happening, I wiped the tears off my face, threw my hands in the air and immediately felt a set of hands grasp mine. It ripped me out from under my feet, sending me flying upwards. I was flying at an unnatural speed and was seemingly getting faster and faster. I must have passed out, because I don't remember feeling anything until I was thrown into the ground in what seemed to be a lab. I slowly picked my head up to see several men draped in lab coats running towards me, who then started spraying me with what looked like to be a fire extinguisher. I started to scream uncontrollably, and I didn't stop until I heard the same voice that I heard from inside that cage. I quickly stopped screaming and looked at the man calling my name again. You're okay, Ryan. You're okay now. You're safe with us. You can trust us. I saw his hand reach for mine and I grabbed it again. I followed him into a room that I could only explain as an interrogation room that you see in movies. As he started explaining to me what the heck had just happened, I finally understood where I was and what I must have experienced. It's been a few months since my incident on Halloween night, and I'm finally ready to explain what happened. The man that explained this to me made sure that I kept it a secret. But I can't live with myself if I don't share what happened to hopefully save someone's insanity. The man that explained to me everything was one of the special projects managers of the CIA. What he told me was that in the last 20 years, they had started constructing a portal to the underworld, otherwise known as Hell. Yes, they were able to discover the existence of Hell. After a lot of botched creations, they finally created a successful portal. After the first successful mission into Hell, there was a malfunction with the portal, which caused it to explode. The explosion was covered up by the CIA, and no one ever knew about it. After this, the project was abandoned for years, until people started falling into these wormholes caused by the explosion. People who fell into these wormholes inevitably ended up in Hell. I was one of the unfortunate individuals who fell into a wormhole after they thought they had destroyed the last of them. They were able to get me out because of where I live. At the time, they were investigating a huge signal that was being emitted from the area of Smithsville Road. A signal that was not achievable by any machine on this earth, in this world. A signal they had recognized to be the same signal their portal was emitting years and years ago. As soon as they had found this signal, they rushed to their lab where the initial explosion had taken place, and worked endless hours to get me back. I didn't understand how they actually found me, but the time that I spent in Hell was equivalent to around 60 seconds time on Earth. I haven't told anyone about this experience, and I told my parents my absence when I was actually stuck in a lab was due to me having to clean the kitchen at my place of work. I wonder every day if there are more people who fall into these wormholes. There is no actual way to avoid falling in. You just have to be lucky enough to never come across one